Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. We're live on YouTube and ECTV, so I want to welcome everyone. Today is Tuesday, January 12th, 2021. This is our regularly scheduled council caucus. We do have a guest tonight, and that is Mayor Cognetti. And Mayor Cognetti is going to update us on a few matters that are going on in the city. So we'll start off with Mayor Cognetti, and then if anybody has any questions for the mayor. Mayor Cognetti, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. All right. Hey, everyone. Happy New Year. Wanted to just come and say Happy New Year and kind of generally talk about working together and moving forward in 2021. I think what's difficult in this moment for all of us is that these first couple of weeks of the year have been even more challenging than we could have anticipated. So it's tough, I think, for all of us as we are already dealing with this pandemic. We're dealing with trying to work on the vaccine, and then having the unrest at the Capitol last week, and looking toward inauguration next Wednesday. I was hoping that this week, we'd be kind of celebrating having the hometown kid assuming the presidency, which we still should be celebrating. But unfortunately, we're in some pretty dark times in terms of some of the unrest down in DC. So the greeting that I have for you is a little bit less sunny than I was hoping, but I think it's important that we just note the fact of what happened last week and how outrageous it is, and work together to talk with our whole community about how we continue to move forward. And I think what's great about City Council and the city administration and all of the community that we live in, I think we have the opportunity in this community to move forward in ways that sometimes bigger cities aren't able to do. We're able to talk with each other and talk with our families and our neighbors in a way that I think it's harder to do in a bigger city. So in these hard times, I try to think about the assets we do have, and I think the community we have, we're just the right size, I think, to have a voice and have an impact. And when we raise our hand at the state level or the national level, people listen to our ideas or send us, ideas when we ask for them. And at the same time, we're a close-knit community that can get through these difficult times together. So I'll look forward to working with all of you as we go through this year. And as we do, I wanted to give an update on COVID and the vaccine. Unfortunately, I don't have a ton of information. We're still working with the Department of Health as closely as we can to understand the vaccine rollout. I know you all are getting questions. I'm getting lots of questions about the rollout. It's still a little bit of a dark, kind of a black box in some of this. And I know the Department of Health is working really hard to tease that out more. We're still in the 1A phase for, which is generally healthcare workers. That my understanding is that's about 1 million people in 1A. And 1A also includes people like, our police, our fire have started to get the vaccines as they are part of that chain of medical response. They're in touch with, they're actually physically with people that are responding to medical emergencies. So they've been able to get the vaccine, and that's across the county. Other first responders have been getting it. 1B has not officially started yet. The 1B phase is about 4 million people is my understanding. And I'm hoping that the Department of Health will come out with a clearer prioritization and order of what 1B looks like. Because at this point, it's just one big group of 4 million people. And we're seeing this play out. You really can't administer that until it's got a little bit more meat to that. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get that information out to people as quickly as we have it. And I know the Department of Health is working to do that. So in the meantime, I think it's important that we are realistic about when the kind of general public will be able to get the vaccine. I know we've been getting questions, I'm sure you have too, about when older adults might be able to get it because they're in the 1B category. I think realistically, we'd be looking at, into the late winter, early spring for kind of some part of that 1B category. So I hate to be bearing bad news, but I also think it's important that we're being realistic with our community about when folks are going to be able to access the vaccine after we get through healthcare and first responders and some of those groups. Is there any questions or anything that you all are hearing from the public about the vaccine?
No, I don't have any questions on the vaccine, but thank you for the update on that. Any other questions on vaccines from anyone? Okay. Do you have anything else, Mayor?
I just wanted to touch on the, well, a couple things. So we have gone back to appointment only at City Hall for code enforcement, treasury, and any other in-person business. So we'll have the drop box back in the vestibule for, you can drop off permits, you can drop off payments there. And you can call. We have it posted online, posted on the website, and then at the doors to who to call to get an appointment. But it'll just be a little bit easier on our teams if we do that by appointment only here for the next little while, especially as the pandemic continues. And you guys will see on your agenda for next week a proposal for relief for refuse late payments for refuse fees going forward to March 31st for 2020. That would entail refunding that $36 penalty that anyone's paid since October 1st. So in terms of some of that, the COVID related relief, you all will see that. And I know you, Councilman Gahn, you had a question about entertainment fees. So we're looking at that, and we'll work up a proposal, I think a schedule for that. I think we need to understand we need to be flexible with the timing, given the restrictions that are on some of these businesses. What's a formula maybe that we can come up with to reduce those fees according with the restrictions that we're seeing this year? Let's see. Other than that, same with the dog licenses. We're continuing to look at that. We were hoping that we'd have that, and some other things took over, but we will be sending up a proposal to you all to reduce the annual fee for dog licenses to better match what the county and state do. Our license fee is pretty high, so I think we can do better on that. And so I think I had one other thing. Oh, the new website. So we're working on that. So it's not quite ready to roll out, but that's pretty exciting, and we'll want to give you guys a look at that before it goes live.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the mayor on anything?
I guess to start off with number one, when it comes to the permits, is there an average turnover rate for when someone submits a permit till it's issued?
I don't know precisely a turnover rate. I mean, there's different types of permits, but we can try to get some data for you on that.
Another thing I was looking at was we have on the agenda tonight, and I think it's in seventh order. We had the loan grant program, and I know I had Kevin reach out to Eileen Cipriani today, and he got me a couple answers with that. But I mean, maybe this is a chance to discuss that loan grant program. I mean, how many of these grants are out there? How much money is available for businesses in the city? Is there anything active from previous years? Anything like that?
So it would be, we can bring Eileen on to discuss it in more detail, but I think it was in the spring, we actually, we did kind of formally take action against some of the businesses who had not honored the provisions of the grant. There were some outstanding from years past that folks didn't actually meet those qualifications over time. So I know that we did take action on some of those entities.
Wait, that was my next question that I only read off the first couple, but that's the next one I had. Is there a lot of them out there?
There are some. Again, I'd have Eileen make a tally and speak to it more in depth. I'd say fewer than I thought there would be, honestly. But because it's really a really great program. So I think we'd all like to see more of those programs go out. But we have to do our job and administer them and monitor them properly. So we'll continue to run that program in a way where we can be really fully able to help those businesses get from that loan to that grant. And if they're not able to fulfill that, then it becomes a loan and we need to be paid for that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Offhand, do you know about how much funding is available for these type of things, especially in this time?
I don't know exactly, so I'd have to have Eileen. But it certainly is a program that I think we could absolutely do. We could have more applicants for that program.
Okay. How about anything with the application process or how the individuals are chosen?
With the loan to grant?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not super close to that process, so I think it'd be better to have Eileen come on to a meeting in the next few weeks to discuss it more.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mayor Cognetti?
Where a comment regarding the website. I was really happy to hear that we're getting a new one. Every time I go onto our website, I cringe, and so I'm excited and looking forward to that. But no, I didn't have any other questions, and I didn't with regards to the vaccinations. It's I guess a wait and see. We just have to find out when the rollout is going to be, and then we'll be able to provide more information on that.
Yep. Actually, that reminds me, and if you each have a short bio, if you could send that to me, or send it to Lori to send it to me. We want to put your bios in the About Council section of the website. So if you guys wouldn't mind getting that to me or Lori, that would be great.
Okay, and Councilman Donahue, did you have a question?
Mayor, to your knowledge, do we have any update on when we're going to get the 2019 audit?
2019 audit. I thought, let me check in. I know Carl has been in very close touch with the Kohansky firm.
Yeah.
It's been very, very close for quite some time. I honestly thought that it was done, but I'll check back in.
I think they're still waiting for the GASB statements.
So, okay, is that?
I think that's the final part of it to finish it.
And that's not our, I don't
know.
think that's our, right? That's not, I don't think the GASB statement is on our plate here in this building.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
But I think it's just something that's the only outstanding issue required to finalize the audit.
I know our part has been done for quite some time. So I'll circle back with Carl, and we got to get that, or they've got to get that.
Yeah. And then just one other question I have is, where are we at in terms of your internal LIPS assessment in terms of, improving those processes?
Yeah. We have a lot of work to do there, as you all know. So we're trying to really deep dive on that as best as we can. So Eileen is now, heading community development, and we'll be able to, I think, she started a task force on like housing and rental registration. So we can start looking into those pieces and really try to tease out what we need to be doing there. And we've been doing a review of fees like the entertainment fee, but the quality of life, those types of fees, trying to match what we do versus what other cities do, and then bring a proposal to you all. Same with the way that we do contractor licenses and permits. Eileen's been starting to work with some contractors. I've talked to some folks like the carpenters and we're going to try to get together what people think would be maybe a more modernize those processes and those fee levels so that we're competitive with other cities like ours.
Okay.
Just in terms of with the fees, because we scaled back the quality of life, the definitions basically, and the things you could charge for different quality of life violations. We scaled that back to try to simplify that a little bit. And I guess that would be what I would, just inquire about is has there been any change, I guess, in whether it's, compliance, payment, just straight down the line to, the previous system compared to how we scaled it back.
Yeah. So the consensus here is that this strip down was a little bit too much, that there's things like not being able to give a quality of life ticket for having a dumpster outside. There's some things that fell off the list that code enforcement would really like to have back on the list. So what we want to,
but I think just on that one, I just think that was more of a code or a zoning enforcement issue than a quality of life issue. Just you bringing that up, going back to the discussions on that,
I think that's part of what we need to finish our assessment and then bring that to you all. And then I think we should figure out what are the tweaks that we need to make. Another piece is that we think that the tickets at around $25 don't seem to be having this type of impact that a ticket at a higher rate might have. Not on everything, but I think there are some items that code enforcement would like to bring back closer to maybe what it looked like in prior years. So I think there's kind of a middle ground that we should try to get to. And then also we've been looking for a zoning officer for a very long time, and we've not been able to find the right fit. So we're continuing to look for that person. That's going to be a huge help. It's been a big missing piece for us, but we're really hoping to get somebody in there that has knows what they're doing, done this before, worked in either worked in a city in zoning or in some other trade that helps them be really able to hit the ground running.
I mean, then just one more comment is just in terms of then the overall fees. I think we have to take a deep dive into modernizing some of those, and seeing what's a more modern way of doing it. I mean, there's some on there that, we don't collect anything because, they're from the 1960s.
Right. Like the phonograph language in the ordinance on entertainment. Yeah. So maybe this is stuff that we can have a little bit of fun with. But yeah, this year I think is exciting because we can start to dig into some of these things and some of it we just did not have time to do last year with everything going on.
Councilman McAndrew, do you have a question?
Yes, Mayor, could you tell us where administration's at with the clerical union contract?
Yeah, they actually had a long negotiation session today, and it's not finished, but I think it's getting there, which is good.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I think another question, I've been getting some more calls on this lately. I felt like there was a round of calls that came through and then I got a second round over the holidays. But the Birch Street project, I know we did get some correspondence saying maybe February, maybe April, but anything that's come to light as of recently about the completion of that?
I'll have to check in on that one. Yeah, I don't have an update on that.
Okay. Mayor, I just have one question on the agenda. So 5B, we have legislation in front of us that we're going to transfer, or you're asking for approval to transfer $185,000 from a contingency account to the law department professional services to cover various attorney's fees. And as you know, in 2020, there was $225,000 budgeted for professional services. So now I don't expect you to have this information on hand tonight, but before final passage, would you be able to provide a breakdown of those attorneys fees for that year? I was wondering if it might be because of the Act 511 case that we're going over, but I wasn't positive.
I will get a breakdown. I know that there that motorcycle is going too fast down Mulberry. I know that there were legal fees from 2019 that were not paid in that calendar year that we've been going through. Some of that I think some of this might be related to bills that we were inherited, but let me get that breakdown.
Okay. And then the second thing I had was in terms of, I brought this up last week, the police chief. So we have Chief DeMecca, who I think is doing a good job. He's been the acting or interim chief since September. So can you provide an update to us on what that search is looking like in terms of police chief?
Yeah. Chief DeMecca is doing a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, probably just not going to answer a search question right here in this forum. But yeah, Chief DeMecca is doing a great job. And I think that we need some more time to chart out what that position looks like. And we're really getting to know kind of not just Chief DeMecca, but other sergeants, lieutenants, captain in the police force. It's been really great to work with Chief DeMecca, who really brings in all of the management of the police department. So we're getting to know everyone a little bit better, and Chief DeMecca is doing a great job.
Okay, thank you. And I know, we're in the middle of January, so nobody's thinking about swimming at this point, but one of the things that has been brought up here before was a concern, and I know you just issued, or the city just issued an RFP. Can you just go through the process about what's happening at the pool at Nayout Park and what your administration is doing to make sure that that pool is going to be open this summer, hopefully, all things considered with the pandemic?
Yep. Yeah, we are really trying to get that pool operational for the summer. That's what we all very, very much want. We also have to do it. We have to make sure that we're putting a plan in place that is safe and also utilizing, our tax dollars in the best way possible.
Mhm.
So by sending out that RFP for the study, we need to have a study done, not only to make sure that our plan makes sense, but also in order to access other grants and funding to be able to help us fund that project. So we had, I think it was something like 22 bid packets picked up or something like that for that. I believe those came back. I haven't seen the final selection yet, but we'll get that study done. Hopefully from that study, we'll be able to make a plan that we can make the repairs, which, it's not just the liner, there's pieces underneath the pool itself, but then underneath the pool that we need to make sure that we're fixing in a proper and sustainable way. So we're working really hard on that study. Like I said, we had lots of folks pick up those packets, and I think that we'll be able to get somebody good to do that. Hopefully we can get the work done and get it funded. We have calls on this. I think we have a regular call every Monday on that, and we're trying as hard as we can to open. But just like so much right now, we're not going to make promises because we don't want to make promises we can't keep, and we want to make sure that everything that we're doing is done in the best way for the future. We certainly hope that we can be open, though.
Okay, great. And one of the things that we kind of left off 2020 with was the collection of delinquent refuse fees. So I know that Kevin and Attorney O'Brien, the city solicitor, were going back and forth with some of the changes that we had suggested for the Portnoy contract. So is there any updates that you can provide council, or any kind of window of time and when we might see some?
Yeah, I know that attorneys Hayes and O'Brien had a call this afternoon. I don't want to get ahead of anything that they talked about, because I haven't been able to follow up on that call, but you guys should be seeing, you should be seeing a new proposal very soon.
Okay.
I'm not sure if, I'm hoping that it could be sent up next Tuesday for your following meeting. That's the hope.
Okay.
But I mean, as you all know from it's a new day. NRS is gone. They're no longer here. But there is kind of a, there's legacy costs of the unfortunate circumstances around which Mayor Courtwright brought that company in. Unfortunately, it takes a lot to untangle that. And, Attorney O'Brien's working really hard. I know Attorney Hayes as well, making sure that we're moving forward in the best way that we possibly can, but that the ghost of NRS is going to hang over the city for a while. I mean, they were here for a long time, and it's really the cost of the actions of the former mayor, and we got to move on from it. But some of these things are taking longer than I know we'd all like them to. But it's happening, and we'll move forward, and we should be able. Again, I'm hoping that proposal can be before you guys in I guess 2 weeks from tonight, hopefully.
Okay, thank you. And the last question for me, just again, something that was kind of left over from last year was the recycling. Recycling RFP was put out.
Yeah.
Any update on that process?
Yep. Yeah, that's something that we need to discuss and try to figure out how we want to move forward. I think we should have maybe a dedicated caucus to that, so we can all talk about it together along with the attorneys, because I don't want to, I'm not steeped in these bids like Attorney O'Brien or Carl is. So I'd prefer to kind of go into that when we're all together. But we have some decisions to make on what we should do with recycling moving forward.
Okay. All right. I don't have anything else. Mayor Cognetti, does anybody else have anything before we let Mayor Cognetti go? Okay. Mayor, thank you so much for coming. As always, we are looking forward in 2021 to working with you and working with your administration. And thank you again for coming and answering our questions and giving us an update on some matters in the city. Thank you.
And yeah, any updates or concerns that you guys have in terms of the vaccine, again, we'll try to get that information out as quickly as we can, get it from the Department of Health.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor. Have a good night.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.
Okay, everybody. So we have about 15 minutes left in our regular caucus, or in our caucus before we start our regular meeting at 6:30. So the agenda tonight is pretty straightforward. I had some questions on agenda item 5B about the transfer of the contingency funds to the Law Department Professional Services. And as you just heard from the mayor, she's going to provide us some more information on that. Other than that, like I said, the agenda is pretty straightforward. I don't really have anything else. So I'll turn it over to Kevin now. Kevin, do you have any updates on the law side of things?
Sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Okay, good. So this afternoon, I think I circulated a memo on various legal issues that I reviewed with Solicitor O'Brien. Those issues included NRS, the recycling contract, as well as the Portnoy issue and some other matters. So if you, upon your review of that memo, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll try to get clarification for you. None of those issues in that memo relate to tonight's agenda. But in sixth order for tonight's meeting is the ordinance which authorizes the mayor to enter a lease agreement with the Kaiser Valley Association to use the Kaiser Valley Community Center. I know I had questions were raised during last week's meeting regarding this lease, and I spoke with both Solicitor O'Brien and LIPS Director Tom Oleski, and they both confirmed that there's no existing lease in place at this time. So I agree. This is part of the administration's efforts to get written agreements in place for these nonprofit groups that are making use of city-owned property. And I agree with the administration's efforts to do this, because I think it's important that everybody understands the respective roles of the parties and the terms of the use, and it ultimately protects the city from potential liability that may arise from the tenant's use of the city-owned properties. I don't know if anybody has any additional questions. I know that some were raised regarding the ordinance and the lease for the Kaiser Valley Center, but basically what it provides is that the association, it's a long-standing association in Kaiser Valley who has operated the center. They will continue to do so. They have the ability to sublease it out to others for events. And they themselves can have community events there as well. The city reserves the right to use the center at any time for any municipal purpose. The association is ultimately responsible for the maintenance and upkeep, the payment of utilities, and the disposal of trash while during the term of the lease. But again, this is, I think, part of the administration's efforts to get written agreements in place for these properties, and I think it's important that we have these in place. Other than that, Councilman Schuster had asked for me to inquire on the loan to grant program, which Lavish is under consideration for. I spoke with OECD Director Eileen Cipriani, who indicated that this is an ongoing program that they have, and this is another instance where her office uncovered unused funds and accounts for this program, and now is promoting it and getting much more, many interested applicants. So that's good news. And she, as the mayor indicated, she's well versed in the program and understands the criteria that you have to meet and the obligations you have to satisfy in order to get the grant, the loan converted to a grant. I'm sure she'd be interested in talking to you about that, as well as she's involved in a number of other programs to help our small businesses. But that's all I have for right now.
Anybody have any questions for Kevin?
Well, thank you, Kevin, for looking into some of those things. I mean, that loan grant program, especially at this point in time right now, I think it'd be great if she would come on and talk about it. Maybe get some of the business owners in the area informed about it and tap into some of those funds.
Yeah, definitely. Lori, do you have anything?
Thank you, Councilman Gahn. The only thing notable is the agenda item 6A, and that is an OECD piece. There will need to be a motion this evening to table for 30 days. It's a HUD requirement to allow OECD to accept public comment. And that's the only thing I have related to the agenda for this evening.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we have about 10 minutes left. We'll go around the room. Kyle, Councilman Donahue, do you have anything?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Councilman McAndrew, anything?
Nope, I'm okay.
Okay, Dr. Rothschild, anything?
I'm good. Thank you.
And Councilman Schuster, do you have anything?
No, I did get a response from the mayor. I didn't really get a chance to look at it because it just came prior to the meeting, about the questions I had regarding the bond counsel for the Tran transaction. So maybe I'll bring it up in old business to move to third order next week.
Yeah, I think, Lori, were you gonna put that in third order for next week?
I did want to ask you about that. If you'd like me to, certainly.
Yeah, I think we can put it on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, when looking at that, two of the questions I had was, first of all, why did we need bond counsel for such a transaction? And then how do we arrive at the price? I'm pretty certain I was clear about those two things. It really didn't address those two questions, but guess we put it in third order anyway.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Councilman Schuster. There are some things that I'll address during the regular meeting. One of which will be, I got a response from the OECD director about the paving program for 2021. So I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. They also responded to Mr. McNaney, hope I'm saying his last name right. He was a resident who had a question about the $28,000 COVID reimbursement for the website upgrade. So I'll read that into the record for that citizen who had a request there. And we did submit all of the citizens' requests to Chris Smith, who is the mayor's, who works in the mayor's office. So they are supposed to be getting those answers. Other than that, like I said, the agenda is pretty straightforward, so I don't have anything else. We'll adjourn this caucus until 6:30. Okay, we'll come back right at 6:30. Thanks, everybody. I'd like to call this public meeting of Scranton City Council to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community. Also for all of the, especially for the people who died tragically in the vicious attack by mobs of ignorant conspiracy theorists on our Capitol this past week. Let us also take a moment of silence for all of the people in our community, in our country, and our world who have passed away from the coronavirus. This pandemic has turned our world upside down, but we must remain hopeful and strong. We continue to pray for the doctors, nurses, researchers, and all medical professionals who seek to heal and help those affected and who put themselves at risk in the process. May they have protection and peace. Whether we are home or abroad, surrounded by many people suffering from this illness or only a few, let us stick together, endure together, mourn together, and in place of our anxiety, let us have hope and peace. Thank you. Ms. Carrera, roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Present.
Mr. McAndrew,
Present.
Dr. Rothschild,
Here?
Mr. Donahue,
Here.
Mr. Gahn.
Here. Thank you, Ms. Carrera. Mrs. Reed, would you please dispense with the reading of the minutes?
Thank you. Third order. 3A, correspondence received from City Controller dated January 4, 2021 regarding payroll overtime by department, December year-end overtime report. 3B, correspondence issued by Scranton City Council in response to Mayor Cognetti's letter regarding the 2021 operating budget amendments. 3C, minutes of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority meeting held December 2, 2020. 3D, check received from the University of Scranton dated January 6, 2021 in the amount of $200,000, which is payment in lieu of taxes. 3E, Lackawanna County Planning Commission Subdivision and Land Development Evaluation Report, reviewed December 2, 2020. 3F, minutes of the Civil Service Commission meeting held December 3, 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Are there any comments on any of the third order items? Just one on the overtime report, and I mentioned this last week. Controller Murray has issued an overtime report for the end of the year. And when you look at the report, you'll notice that we are obviously over by a significant amount in overtime just overall. I did report last week that the business administrator, Carl Dealey, answered my questions in terms of why we were over in police and fire, the police and fire departments. So he did provide justification for that. I had additional questions about the DPW administration overtime. I believe there was only $250 budgeted, and we were over, I think they spent about over $5,000 in overtime. And then we also spent overtime in OECD, which I don't think I've ever seen before. So I wanted justification for those two items, and they have been submitted to the administration. Anyone else have any comments? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have one. This Saturday, January 16th, from 2 until these dinners run out, the Elm Park United Methodist Church on 712 Linden Street, Scranton, will be having a drive-through, walk-up, takeout chicken dinner. It's sponsored by the Pioneer Construction and Pennsylvania American Water. There's a list.
Without fail.
Mark. We lost you, Mark.
Elm Park United Methodist Church. I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, Mark. We lost you for like 10, 20 seconds.
I think this happens every week.
Someone's hacking you.
I know. I believe it. Believe me. I'm not saying nothing. Don't get me going. So I don't know where you lost me, but the dinner includes chicken strips, potato, vegetable with a roll and salad, also a Subway chocolate chip cookie. Deliveries are available for people that can't make it, and that's fantastic. So if you want a delivery, you can contact the Elk Park United Methodist Church. The number is 570-878-0206, Monday through Friday, 12 to 5 p.m. Great job, guys. That is all I have.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Anyone else have any announcements?
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to add, I saw that Naog Park had announced they're going to be having a food drive the week of Valentine's Day, so in mid-February. So they'll be collecting donations for it February 11th or February 13th from 5 to 7 o'clock at night, and then February 13th or February 14th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it's for non-perishable food products, and those will be then delivered to local food pantries. In addition to that, I think cash donations would be accepted to help buy gift cards from local grocery stores. So, yep. So once again, that's a Naog Park food drive. It's going to be the week of Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Anyone else? I just wanted to make a brief comment about Naog Park and what a really nice job the Parks and Recreation employees and the Recreation Authority Board did with the lights at Naog Park this year. It was really, really nice. I took my kids up there with my wife quite a few times, and really, really good job. Mrs. Reed?
Thank you. Fourth order, citizens' participation.
At this time, would someone please make a motion to accept public comment from the following individuals: Faye Franis and Marie Schumacher?
Make a motion to accept public comment.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to accept public comment. Mrs. Reed, would you please read the comments into the record?
Thank you. The first submission is from Faye Franis as follows. Council, last week I asked you a question. You did not answer me. I felt it was very important to have Mayor Cognetti come to a meeting via Zoom and express her viewpoints on the 55 amendments you made on her budget. I asked you if you would consider doing that. Here are my direct two questions to you today, since I got no reply last week. I would appreciate yes or no replies. Repeat, yes or no replies. Number one, have you reached out before last week's meeting to have Mayor Cognetti attend your meeting of January 5th? Number two, had Mayor Cognetti reached out to you about her attending your January 5th meeting? The second submission is from Marie Schumacher as follows. According to the Times Tribune, the city's Human Resources Department gave city employees about 6 weeks or until December 1st to satisfy any debts they might have via payment or payment plan, at which time an audit of employee tax and fee statuses would be conducted. What were the results of the audit? I noticed the Civil Service Commission has scheduled about 3 meetings at the new conference room located near the pool complex. When was this built and what funding was used? Is there any chance City Council could start meeting there as well? 5B, what is the point of amending a budget after the year has closed? Why wasn't this done in December 2020? 6A, will St. Joseph's be responsible to verify the income documentation prior to each award? Did St. Joseph's request this funding last year and not make the cut, or is this a new need? Is this only available to low income, or do moderate incomes included? Unless I missed it, the backup never mentioned a father. Is their income included income in the evaluation? 6B, as I recall, the grantee has an agreement with the county regarding the flooding of the parking area. How does the lease impact this? Also, is there a possibility council can start meeting there, as I think it's time and the building seems sufficient to provide proper social distancing? 7B, there have been many loan to grant loans. How many stay a loan and how many are converted to a grant? 7C, why do we need a pass-through? Can't this be done in-house? Any idea when the 2020 unanswered questions may be received? And that concludes the citizen participation.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. On the question, anyone on the question?
Yeah, on the question, I want to answer Faye's questions that she posed last week and this week. Number 1, no. Number 2, no. That's it.
Anyone else? Yes, on the question, just related to Ms. Franis's question from this week. The mayor was here tonight at our caucus. The mayor is always welcome at our caucus. I spoke to the mayor earlier today. The mayor replied to council's amendments in a letter that was sent to council and to the newspaper, and we've been over this the last few weeks. The 2021 budget was unanimously passed by council. The mayor did not sign the budget. The mayor has 10 days to either veto or sign the budget or not sign it. So after 10 days, the budget became law, and that budget was the one that was passed by council. So therefore, at this point, it's a moot point. If the mayor wanted to discuss the amendments, she could have brought those up tonight. But again, she already gave her views on it in the letter. So there's really no point to rehash everything. We've all made our thoughts known on it. And now, it's time to move on to something else and other business that has to be conducted by the city. So I think that hopefully that answers Ms. Franis's questions. The second thing here regarding Ms. Schumacher's questions. Her first question about the audit that was announced by the Human Resources Department. I did speak briefly about this with the mayor earlier today, because I did see Ms. Schumacher's questions a few hours ago. And the mayor did say that she will provide results of this audit at some point within the next few weeks. So when those are available, obviously, they'll be available to council and to the public. The second question about the Civil Service Commission meeting in the conference room located near the pool complex, and if councils could start meeting there as well. We're going to meet in council chambers when it's safe to do so. If you haven't been living under a rock, the pandemic is killing about 4,000 people a day. So, I mean, just me personally, I'm not in a huge rush to cram into council chambers or any other conference room with members of the public and put not only the council in danger, but more importantly, the public. So to both of those questions about meeting in different places, no, we won't be doing that until it's safe to do so. 5B, she mentions, what's the point of amending a budget after the year has closed? Well, technically, the budget's not being amended. They're transferring money between the contingency, from the contingency account to the professional services account in the law department. And this has to be done. If you transfer money between departments, it triggers legislation that council has to vote on. There's always historically been a lot of transfers towards the end of the year that are interdepartmental, and we get copies of those. This just happens to be from the contingency account to the law department professional services. And that's to supplement the account. And that has been done before since I've been on council. I did have a question and wanted additional information, and the mayor said tonight that she is going to provide that. As for the questions,
Councilman Gahn, could I just add to that too, that this is just part of the normal reconciliation process in January, where you're paying bills that, you know, were accrued in December and that apply to the 2020 budget year.
Right, correct. Thank you. As for the questions about the agenda items, I don't know off the top of my head the specific answers to Ms. Schumacher's questions, but as I said a minute or two ago, I did review this Ms. Schumacher's questions earlier, so I sent them to Eileen Cipriani, the director of OECD, and I know that Director Cipriani she usually gets back pretty quickly, so I should have answers to those before next week. On 7C, why do we need a pass through? Can't this be done in-house? I believe that we voted on an agreement a few months ago to use this organization as a pass-through for these grants. And the reason given to us at that time was that they didn't feel it was reasonable to do it in-house. They didn't have the bandwidth to do it in-house. And I believe there's a 1% fee, which I don't think is outrageous or unreasonable. And as for the last question, any idea when the 2020 unanswered questions may be received? Mrs. Reed, our city clerk, has been in contact again with the representative from the mayor's office, and those questions have been received by the mayor's office, and we're still waiting for answers to be given on them. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Councilman Schuster, any motions or comments at this time?
One thing I'd like to ask is maybe we send correspondence to the LIPS department. I just, right prior to the meeting, I did get a message about there's a car on cinder blocks on the corner of North Rebecca and Elizabeth Street. It's been there for quite some time. Maybe they could take a stop by and see what's occurring with that vehicle.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Schuster. Councilman McAndrew, any motions or comments at this time?
Yes, last week I posed a question regarding the removal of snow on the bridges during snowstorms. So I'm happy to report that Mr. Preamble actually he came back with an explanation or the protocol, whatever we were looking for. So during a post-winter storm cleanup, the Department of Parks, along with Public Works employees, are deployed to various bridge locations in the city for snow removal or de-icing. This deployment of staffing resources may require multiple days and or multiple visits depending on the intensity of the weather event in order to provide services to all subject sidewalks. The deployment of staffing resources for this activity is also dependent on the availability of staff throughout both departments. Nonetheless, this activity is monitored by the DPW management team to be completed as soon as possible under all situations outlined above. It is worth noting that many times once a subject sidewalk is cleared from the snow or ice, it is covered again by continuous plowing activities by other entities. When this happens, the redeployment of staff is necessary sometimes days later after a weather event. Okay, so I'm happy to report that. Also brought to me is another, it was a safety hazard, and Mrs. Reed, if please you can send some correspondence regarding this one. There's a hazard on the corner of Linden and Penn. It seems to be a metal stub projecting about 4 inches up from the pavement. It is where a sign was sawn off. Maybe it is intended for another sign to be attached, but as it stands, it's definitely a possible cause for an unwary pedestrian to trip and fall, or for a car to back over it. as there's a small parking area there too. To the least, maybe an orange cone can be put there until it's identified if it's a new sign or not, to prevent an accident or tire damage. All right, so if you could please look into that, Mrs. Reed, for me. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Councilman McAndrew. Dr. Rothschild, any motions or comments at this time?
No motions or comments right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councilman Donahue, any motions or comments at this time?
I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. I just have two things. Number one, and the mayor addressed this in the caucus. Last week, I brought up an issue that was brought to my attention from some of the business owners across the city about an ordinance that was passed a few decades ago regarding an entertainment fee that businesses would pay in the amount of $500 a year. Obviously, businesses have been affected by the pandemic and the fact that they're really no one is having entertainment at this point because of everything that's going on. So when I spoke to the mayor earlier and on the caucus tonight, her and her administration are going to take our council suggestion into consideration about waiving that $500 fee for 2021. Unfortunately, the bills already went out, and some of these business owners paid that money already. So they're going to have to work out logistically what that looks like. I think last year we only brought in about $15,000 from this fee, and in the 2021 budget, I think it's they're expecting somewhere around $20,000. So again, it just comes down to an issue of fairness. You wouldn't charge somebody a fee when they're not, giving out that service. So that was the first item. Secondly, last week I had asked, was interested in the paving program from OECD. And Eileen Cipriani, the OECD director, did get back to me. OECD has $734,016.75 that is going to be available for 2021 paving projects. A project engineer has been selected, and we are expecting legislation to council to enter into a contract with an engineering firm shortly. And they are or did supply a list of streets in low to moderate income areas of the city to be considered for this project. And they anticipate the paving project to go out for bid in March. So we should see the wheels on that whole process start churning very shortly. Secondly, there was a gentleman, Mr. McNaney, who posed a question about an expenditure that the city made, and they wanted to be reimbursed through the CARES Act program. And it was $28,000 expenditure for the IT department for the website, city's website. And the mayor's office got back to me, and they stated that was a $28,000 state co-stars contract. The city was going to engage Bedrock Technologies as well as the city's IT manager to complete the project. The current version of the city's website was written in the early 2000s with some kind of different coding language. This means that all updates must be done with knowledge of that specific coding arrangement and that code in particular. A large portion of this project will be transitioning the current website to WordPress so that any city employee, given the permissions by the website administrator, could update their page. This is going to allow the residents to get the most up-to-date information, and it frees up time for the IT department to focus on helping employees to work from home and perform other vital functions. It's going to be able to provide a good foundation so that they can fully complete the website update by the summer of 2021. That $28,000 worth of funding also includes administrative training for staff on how to work on and update the website. So hopefully that answers Mr. McNaney's question. And finally, one of the questions that I've had in the past didn't get really an update lately on it, and I think it's very important. In our Act 47 recovery plan, there were several, in fact, pages and pages of recommendations that were made a few years ago in 2017 for the city to complete prior to the city's exit, which will be soon, from Act 47. So Mrs. Reed, I would like to, if you could send to the business administrator a list, and I'll send this to you in an email, asking for updates on all of these recommendations. There were 17 of them for workforce cost containment provisions. One of the things that I'm interested in is the adoption of a debt management policy, a fund balance policy. There was all sorts of recommendations on workers' comp funding, pension system funding improvements, and disability pension reform. One thing that I'm interested in there is the adoption of a pension fund governance policy. There was other economic development initiatives and revenue and financial management initiatives and recommendations as well. One of the ones that I've been interested in but could never get an answer on with the last administration was the update of a human resources management plan. So Mrs. Reed, I'll send this along to you, and if you can send that to the business administrator, just asking for an update. I know that over the past few years, there have been several of these initiatives which have been met and several of these recommendations which have been met, but there are a few that are outstanding, and I just want to get an update on what the progress is with each of those. And that's all I have. Mrs. Reed?
Thank you. 5B, for introduction, an ordinance amending file of the Council number 78, 2019, an ordinance as amended entitled General City Operating Budget 2020 by transferring $185,000 from account number as noted, non-departmental operating expenses contingency, to account number as noted, Law Department Professional Services, to provide funding to cover various attorney fees.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, as I mentioned to the mayor in the caucus tonight, and she agreed to provide the information related to what this number breaks down to. In 2020, we had $225,000 budgeted for professional services in the law department. So they're transferring money, $185,000 from the contingency fund to cover additional costs. So I'd like a breakdown of those various attorneys' fees, as is indicated in the backup information that we were provided with, and also just a simple spreadsheet, a breakdown by law firm and attorney of how the money was doled out in 2020 in terms of professional services and professional fees, because we are going to be over budget. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file of the Council number 43, 2021, an ordinance amending file of the Council number 118 of 2017 entitled, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the city of Scranton to take all necessary actions to implement the consolidated submission for community planning and development programs to be funded under the Community Development Block Grant Program, Home Investment Partnership Program, and Emergency Solutions Grants Program for the period beginning January 1, 2018, by amending the 2018 Action Plan by utilizing $15,000 under the Community Development Block Grant previously allocated to Boys and Girls Club Park It program to help low-income mothers retain suitable housing through St. Joseph Center's Mother-Infant Program.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
I make a motion to table item 6A.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to table item 6A. As requested by OECD, this piece of legislation will be tabled for 30 days per the housing and urban development requirements in order for OECD to accept public comment. On the question? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6B, reading by title, file of the council number 44, 2021, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the city of Scranton to enter into a lease agreement with the Kaiser Valley Citizens Association Incorporated for use of the premises commonly known as Kaiser Valley Community Center, located at 101 North Kaiser Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18504, for a 3-year period commencing January 1, 2021 and ending December 31, 2023.
You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6B pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I'd just like to thank Solicitor Hayes for looking into some of the questions I had regarding this resolution.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 110, 2021, authorizing appointment of Brad Kovaleski, PhD, 529 Bogart Court, Apartment 201, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18503, as a member of the Board of Ethics, effective January 1, 2021. Dr. Kovaleski will be replacing Carol Migliorino, whose term expired August 31, 2020. Dr. Kovaleski will be appointed to a 3-year term effective January 1, 2021, and will expire August 31, 2023.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? On the question, I want to welcome Dr. Kovaleski to the Ethics Board. I noted this last week, but there's still one opening on the Ethics Board, and that would be council's choice. We put it out in the newspaper, advertised it in the newspaper 2 different times, and didn't get anyone to submit a letter of interest or a resume. So if anyone on council, anyone in the public knows anyone that's interested or is interested themselves, please send a letter of interest or a resume to lreed@scrantonpa.gov. That's Lori Reed, our city clerk, or you can mail it to 340 North Washington Avenue, 2nd floor, city clerk's office. Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gahn.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for Adoption, Resolution Number 111, 2021, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to enter into a loan-to-grant agreement and make a loan grant from the City of Scranton's Business and Industry Loan-to-Grant Program in an amount not to exceed $90,000 to Lavish Body and Home LLC to assist in eligible projects.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, in caucus tonight, I brought up a couple questions about this, and the mayor did state that Ms. Cipriani could come on, that she could answer questions such as, how many of these grants are available, funding is available, what's the application process, and how do they choose the recipient. So I was glad to hear that she can come on, and maybe it'll get some members of our business community informed on the subject, and they can apply for some of this funding.
Okay, thank you. Good point. Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gahn.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption. Resolution number 112, 2021, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the city of Scranton to enter into an agreement with Scranton Area Foundation Incorporated to establish the City of Scranton CARES Act CDBG CV Grant Fund, a pass-through fund which will distribute grants to various small business throughout the City of Scranton as part of the City of Scranton CARES Act CDBG CV Grant Fund due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gahn.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
Eighth order, old business. I have nothing listed at this time.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Stay safe.
See ya, you too.